Bonnie was born in Los Angeles on November 8, 1949, when the young Raitt first found music infiltrating her life. Raised in Los Angeles by Quaker parents who were active in music and liberal politics, her father was Broadway musical star John Raitt. Raitt attended Radcliffe College, Cambridge, Massachusetts, from 1967 to 1969, but dropped out. After she dropped out of Radcliffe, a restless Bonnie Raitt immersed herself in the music industry, specifically the blues scene. She soon enlisted the services of the well-known blues manager Dick Waterman, according to AllMusic. With Waterman's help, she began sharing a stage with blues dynamos like Fred McDowell, Sip Pie Wallace, and Howlin' Wolf. Even as Raitt was working hard to get started playing music professionally, Raitt was also becoming politically active. She dedicated her time to anti-war and civil rights scenes in Cambridge, per her website, and she continued to be an outspoken liberal activist after she left Radcliffe to tour the country with the elder statesmen of blues. Eventually, as word of mouth on the blues circuit cemented Raitt's status as a promising up-and-comer, Warner Brothers signed the young red-haired musician to its music label. According to Raitt's website, her first album was soon to follow that lucky break. Her self-titled debut effort came out soon thereafter, in 1971, per her website, and it was influenced by blues greats like Robert Johnson and Sip Pie Wallace. To record the album, she traveled to Minnesota, where she spent her weekdays singing blues alongside the band Willie and the Bumblebees. When she wasn't occupied recording, she could be found by the pool, playing sports, and hanging out with friends, according to The Current. The end result mixed covers and originals and spanned 11 tracks. While the album later came to be considered artistically successful and influential to future generations of female blues singers, according to Viva Singh, it was a commercial flop. Like her parents, Raitt became politically active as an adult. And as she found her musical voice, she also began incorporating her political activism into her musical life. For example, she co-founded Musicians United for Safe Energy, an industry group opposed to the expansion of nuclear energy use, and headlined a benefit concert for the group in 1979, per Britannica. An outspoken feminist, Raitt also advocated for black blues musicians whom she felt were underpaid, according to Viva Singh. She reportedly took personal responsibility for correcting that dynamic, paying fairly and providing benefits for the musicians she worked with, but she also became active in the R&B Foundation, which worked to fix royalty policies, recognize blues pioneers, and give out hefty grants to artists. The other causes Raitt has supported over the years include ending wars in Central America, ending apartheid in South Africa, passing environmental protections into law, and securing the legal rights of Native Americans, per Raitt's website. Despite her involvement in causes she believed in and her strong musical support network, as the years wore on, Bonnie Raitt the Road Warrior began to show signs of wear. Her drinking caused her to pack on some pounds, as she told the Washington Post in 1989, and it was beginning to affect her music. Her label, Warner, dumped her abruptly around 1983, per AllMusic. All the while, she was struggling to complete records, her collaboration with Prince collapsed, and by the time she forced out the album 9 Lives in 1986, some of her fans were bailing, too. The album had the worst sales of any of her records since her self-titled premiere. All the same, some of the bluesmen in Raitt circles were dropping like flies from too much partying. Lowell George, one former collaborator, died of overdose. Around the same time, Richard Manuel, Roy Buchanan, Jesse Ed Davis, Paul Butterfield, and John Cipollina died as well. Raitt liked to play River of Tears in their honor, but the message their death sent was not lost on her. The turning point for Bonnie Raitt came when the partnership with Prince broke down, according to the Washington Post. First, Raitt hurt her hand in a skiing accident and had to spend 2 months recuperating. Then, Prince wound up prolonging his European tour, even though he had requested Raitt back out of her own summer tour, with the result that the two of them only worked together for 3 days total. Raitt began seeing a therapist, and she finally joined Alcoholics Anonymous. Getting sober would ultimately restore her musical focus and put her career back on track, but it was a long journey from there to her first hit record, Nick of Time, which came out in 1989. After all her struggles and hard work, 1989 proved a lucky year for Bonnie Raitt, and she began to turn things around. That year, in addition to seeing Nick of Time become a commercial hit, she took home 4 Grammy Awards. The first was a Grammy for Album of the Year, which she won with Nick of Time. The second was for Best Rock Performance, Female. The third was for Best Pop Vocal Performance, Female, for the title track on her new album. Finally, her duet with John Lee Hooker, I'm in the Mood, won a Grammy for Best Traditional Blues Recording. By the early 1990s, Bonnie Raitt was back in fine form and, in fact, better than ever. She released a retrospective 2-disc live album and 2 studio albums between 1990 and 1995, according to Britannica. Her 2 studio albums, Luck of the Draw and Longing in Their Hearts, both went on to win Grammy Awards. These successful albums were also being released under a new label. Raitt signed with Capitol Records in 1989, according to her website, allowing her to put out new records with the help of somewhat more reliable partners. It was a satisfying time for Raitt, who had churned out records in her early years, but without much recognition or success. Now, by contrast, her albums were going double platinum and receiving the music industry's highest honor. Raitt was also increasingly working performances by her friends, some of them big names in music, into her albums, creating a series of fruitful collaborations. If the Grammys are the music industry's most vaunted prize, then induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is perhaps the top accolade for rockers specifically. In 2000, Bonnie Raitt also received that honor. Joining other legendary performers of her era and generations past, Raitt took the stage after being introduced by Melissa Etheridge for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She proceeded to deliver a firecracker of a speech, peppered with pointedly feminist notes and nods to the direction she wanted to see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame take with its future choices. In the aughts, Bonnie Raitt delved back into a host of liberal causes, from John Kerry's presidential run to giving Democrats control of the Senate in the 2008 election to environmental and anti-nuclear crusades. According to Raitt's website, she put on a bunch of benefit concerts intended to engage voters and encourage them to vote for Democrats. Following some time away from recording and performing music, Bonnie Raitt returned in 2012 with Slipstream, an intense production put out under the Red Wing Records label, according to her website. The 12 tracks meld blues, funk, and rock and feature some of Raitt's acclaimed slide guitar playing. In 2022, Bonnie Raitt released the 18th studio album of her career, Just Like That. She had spent the pandemic sending her money to and performing for democratic causes, she told Variety in April 2022. But when she finally got the chance to go out on the road again to support the new album, she felt liberated. Live music, she said, was the medicine people needed after hunkering down in fear for 2 years and seeing friends and loved ones die.